like to welcome everyone to the July 27th, 2017 special meeting of the San Miguel County Board of Commissioners. This notice was disseminated and published in the Optic on July 21st, 2017, disseminated on the radio stations KFUN, KLVF, KNMX, KMDZ, KBQL, and KMDS on July 18th of 2017. And it was posted on the San Miguel County website at www.smcounty.net, July 18th, 2017, at least 72 hours in advance of the meeting. The following agenda for today's meeting was posted and available for public inspection on the San Miguel County website at www.smcounty.net, and also available in hard copy at the office of the San Miguel County Manager's Office, Suite 201 of the location noted above. So at this point, I'd like to call the meeting to order with the roll call vote, please.
Chairman Rock Ulivari.
Here.
Vice Chairman Arthur Padilla.
Here.
Commissioner Janice Varela.
Here.
Commissioner Maria Martinez.
Here.
Commissioner Chris Nahad.
Here.
We do have a quorum. Would you like to do the pledge of allegiance?
Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
We need to, it's not on the agenda, but we do need to, oh no, yeah, it isn't. We need to approve the agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Padilla,
Second?
seconded by Commissioner Varela. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 1, resolution number PZ-0259. Mr. Tafoya.
Good afternoon. This item, first of all, for the record, the resolution number is, correct number is PZ-0260. When we were preparing the resolution and we looked at the law, the last resolution was 0259, and we automatically typed in 0259. So the number should be 0260. At any rate, on the July 11th meeting, the Board of County Commissioners addressed the matter of the appeal of the conditional use permit application, which was application number CU-0245. And the Board of County Commissioners took action to grant the appeal, which overturned the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission on that application. The county ordinance, zoning ordinance number 86-2, section 7030, requires that the decision of the Board of County Commissioners in regard to an appeal be rendered by a resolution within 20 days after making the decision. And then it needs to be recorded in the office of the county clerk. So essentially the resolution just indicates the application number, and its purpose indicates that the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission was appealed. The Board of County Commissioners heard the appeal on open public meetings, accepted evidence and testimony, and then took action to grant the appeal. So we're asking approval of the resolution, which essentially finalizes the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission, of the Board of County Commissioners. I don't have anything else.
there are no questions, I'll stand for a motion to adopt resolution PZ 060.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's PZ 0260.
PC-0260, yes, sir.
Motion made by Commissioner Nahara.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Martinez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Oh, any abstentions?
Yes, aye.
Then motion carried. Let the record show that Commissioner Varela has recused herself. Item number 2, ratification of lodgers tax funding, Rough Rider motorcycle rally.
The County Lodgers Tax Advisory Board received a funding request from the Rough Rider Motorcycle Rally, Inc. for financial assistance for the 2017 Rough Rider Motorcycle Rally. And the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board approved an award of totaling $4,220, which was broken up into the request: web page advertising at $696, a web page license at $177, city solid waste service at $1,887, and city public works service at $1,460. And in keeping with the practice of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board, we prepared a contractual agreement for the award and expenditure of lodgers tax funds, and we're bringing the agreement and the ratification of the action taken by the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. We're bringing that to the Board of County Commissioners for ratification and approval. We also have a representative of the Rough Rider Motorcycle Rally present, Mr. William Sanchez, if you have any particular questions that need to be asked. So we would like the Board of County Commissioners to ratify the action taken by the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board and authorize the county manager to sign the contractual agreement. And the agreement gives the Rough Rider Motorcycle Rally until June 30th of next year to use the funds, and any funds that are not spent revert back to the cash balance of the Lodgers Tax Fund on July 1st of 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Tapoya.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? The motorcycle rally, gentlemen want to speak?
Pardon? Oh,
Oh.
We appreciate it, guys. I mean, this is our 12th annual. We worked hard for the last couple of years to make this thing a success. Well, a lot of business, a lot of people in this town.
Absolutely.
You guys, the city's possible.
Thank you for your hard work.
We appreciate it.
I know it's not an easy thing to organize.
Sir?
I know it's not an easy thing to organize, so thank you for your hard work.
We're getting less and less of us. If you guys have any kids or grandkids that are interested in volunteering,
I make a motion for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Padilla, seconded by Commissioner Nahara. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Procurement procedure on point system. This was just a discussion that I wanted to have with my colleagues here. After having some discussion with some business owners in town. And this is just for Linda too to check into, to put on our RFPs or for our construction, certain points for the percentage of San Miguel residents that will be working on the job. If that's legal, you know, have a point system like that. Also a point system for engineering firms that have an office here for the RFPs. Because if their office is here, then the GRT stays here. And also I was asked if there's a point system for hiring employees, if there can be a certain number of points for veterans. And if it's all legal and if it's okay with you guys, would like to direct Melinda to look into see if that follows procurement, if it's to bring it back for a discussion later to see if we can have a point system that supports local workers, veterans, and people who open up offices here.
And local vendors.
Local vendors, yes, sir.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think preferential treatment should be given to people that invest in the community. Like purchasing homes or renting to benefit the whole community. I'm in favor.
Okay, so Melinda, if you can look into that for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, if I may, I had already touched bases with Portland Mines regarding it, and they don't see there being a problem, so what I intend to do is when the new attorney comes into work, I'll work with them in creating some kind of preferential criteria. The state actually, we've adopted the procurement code, and the state actually has two preferences. One is residential businesses, and another is veteran businesses. And both of them have to be certified by the taxing lab, I believe, who has to certify both of them. So we'll have to find out the particulars as to who would certify these businesses as far as being local here and how we'll go about that. But we'll work with the new attorney on that.
Thank you, Melinda.
I'd like to look at this. Yes.
Item number 4, rejection of a sheriff office bid. Gary Gold, Sheriff Gold.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, County Manager, Ms. Melinda. I left those old plans there. I don't know if you can see them pretty good. I don't have an easel to put them up, but the first item on the agenda for us was I was San Miguel County Sheriff's Office along with the architect and finance. San Miguel County is requesting permission to reject the only bid received on, I think it's in your attachment, May 17th, only bid response, although other contractors were interested in the project. And I guess I'm a little off on that one, Melinda. Do we have other contractors interested in the bid? No, not. In the architect, he has that. So ultimately, as we indicated, the initial bid, base bid was $521,000. Alternate number 1 was to include the vehicle shelter, which is $51,000. It's for the carport out in the back. And the marquee sign was $16,000, and the actual fence to keep everything safe within the office was $12,000. So total was, I think, over $6,000. It was pretty high. So today, I'm, in addition to the next item, requesting permission to reject this bid, and I'll get into the next item on the next item.
Any questions?
So basically, just a question, that what we're doing is that we're rejecting this bid and asking the original company to renegotiate, possibly for a lower amount?
That is correct. That's on the next item coming up. We're going to reject this one and ask permission to go through a CES contract.
And for clarification purposes, we're rejecting the bid. If the bid would come in within 10% of our budget, we could have worked with the current bid, but because it came in above 10%, above what we had budgeted for it, we have to reject the bid. And the intention, as I mentioned a while, is to go through another procurement method in order to work with the same company.
I also have a question. So does the process open up again to the beginning, or you just back up to that one contractor that you're trying to negotiate with?
Is that you or me? Go ahead.
We're kind of going to get into item number 6.
Oh, okay.
There was only one bidder who bid on this particular project, and our architect felt that maybe the project was a little bit too large for some of our other local contractors, and a little bit too small for anybody coming from anywhere else. So there's only that one contractor, and again, it would have just been 10% negotiating that particular work, but we wouldn't have been allowed to change the scope. But because it's above the 10%, we have to reject it. Now, Franken, in addition to bidding on this, they're also what they call a CES contractor. And CES is Cooperative Educational Services. And they do procurement that anybody can utilize. So we get quotes from vendors, like Franken's is one of their vendors. We have to do a quote based on their CES format. We have to give it to CES. CES has to review it and make sure that it's in compliance. And if it's in compliance, that's the other way that we could actually procure these services. already been into the procurement process. So that's what the intention of this other item is to go through, is with that other procurement.
Thank you.
What was the percentage, can you say?
The percentage over, well, I think we're like about 600,000 and the budget was
Five.
about a little lower than $400,000. So it's a large difference. So in saying that, the scope of work has to change in order to get into this next round. So, Chair, the changes that took place in order for us to stay within the budget.
Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, I make a motion that we accept the sheriff's proposal to reject this bid.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Varela, seconded by Commissioner Padilla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 5, new specification plans for Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Gold.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we were indicated, I guess we were debating on whether it should be together. I think we needed to reject the bid first and then talk about the new CES process. Because we weren't within budget, we were requesting permission from Commission to go into, as Melinda indicated, to go into contract with the only interested bidder at this point in time to go through the CES process to see if we can kind of fit within budget, which is going to probably include a lot of eliminations from the original specifications that we have out there. We want to remove the training room, the additional training room, which would have been a tremendous amount of money to, I guess, cut into the roof and add an additional room as opposed to the existing modular home. It's a modular home, am I correct? Mobile home. So ultimately, now what they're going to do is just go back to the original and try to come within budget and just make office space. As far as training needs and things of that nature, we'll utilize the detention center or other rooms that may be available for us to use for advanced training. We were hoping that was, the initial plan was hoping that would be our training center for all emergency personnel, but obviously money's very tight. So with that, we're going to have to go back and redo the specifications to come within budget. We're all pretty short of money. So with that, we can try to get a sheriff's office and work with our CES contractor, our architect, and of course finance, county manager to make sure we're within budget and we're shrinking the project, I guess. Is that an easy way to say it? I don't know how else to say it. No money, so we have to come a little bit less. I hope I answered your question.
And if I may add another item, just a second ago I said we're going to try to stay within the current budget that we have, but there really wasn't a way to do that. So we actually, with our final budget, the third item I'll be presenting, there's an additional transfer of $30,000 to this particular fund in order to do the work. So it still is a little bit shy from our original budget, but I'm going to be requesting that during the final budget.
Thank you. Any questions?
How many square feet are you talking about on the actual building? What's the square footage of that building?
Commissioner, I cannot answer that. Does anybody know? No, I don't know.
You're going to have to change the scope of the work.
I'm going to,
Well, that's all right,
Yeah,
if you don't have it.
I have no idea. It might be listed on that right there, but that probably included the addition. But I'm not too sure what this, it's a small modular home, which should be a very small office for us to get started
So
with.
you're gonna stay within, try to stay within that scope then?
Yes,
The actual,
correct.
what you have now?
Upon the CES process with the architect and with the only bidder, Franklin Construction, we're hoping that we can come within that percentage. And if we go over or under, obviously, we've got to get permission from you guys to fund the project. But hopefully we can come up with something that's comparable and within budget to have a sheriff's office and finally get us in there. But I think this was the only alternative. We didn't have the money to add the additional stuff. What the architect indicated to me was this, we started this whole process in 16. I don't know what month, I can't remember what month, but since then price of lumber, labor, and everything has increased. So things change. So here we are already a couple years beyond that, and we're trying, well, almost 2 years, and we're trying to try to stay within that same budget. So things have changed drastically. So I'm not an expert in the contract field. I just know we need to find ourselves a conducive place to work, a nice, comfortable environment, and if we have to, for now, get out of the training room and just stick to the small little office space, it would be great for us.
So just for clarification, you had to change the scope of the work because you're only working with 400,000. And And before, the project might have been too small for outside construction agencies and too big for some local ones, and now that it's a smaller scope, is it going out to rebid, or you're just going to work with Franken? I mean, now that it's a smaller one, you might have more bidders, maybe?
Well, I mean, we could have gone that route, but we just decided since CES is a legal procurement, means of procurement, that we would just go that route since they're the only ones who expressed interest and we have that contract. Now, if you want us to, we could just cancel that whole CES process and go out for bid again. We could do that.
Well, and I understand that this has been a long time waiting to get it done, and that would just kick the can down the road. So I'm fine with whatever unless someone else here.
Make a recommendation that we approve CS process with the modification as submitted.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Ahad, seconded by Commissioner Padilla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And thank you for sending that young man out there, keeping that traffic slow for us last Saturday. It was a total success.
You're very welcome. He had a good time out there. That was a great thing you did as well.
Item number 6, Resolution 2017-07-27-F1 FY16-17 Final Budget Adjustment. Melinda?
Okay, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I provided you with 3 different packets. This particular agenda item is the one that has the yellow cover page. And this particular resolution is to adjust the fiscal year's budget that we just completed. And there's just a couple of adjustments that we have to make. The first set of adjustments have to do with the general fund. The first line that you'll see is roughly about $73,000. That's because during our budget process, we decided to forgive the loan that we had with our reappraisal department in order for them to absorb an employee this fiscal year, so there was an adjustment made there. Then there's a small transfer of $45.37 being made to Fund 209. 209 was one of our state or federal grants, and when we got, it was a federal grant. When we were reimbursed for that grant, it was $45.37 short, so we're going to have to transfer the difference over from the general fund to Fund 209. And then the next general fund transfers total, or adjustments total $242,438. And what happens here is at the end of the year, there really shouldn't be any funds with a negative cash balance. But there are, and it's just because of the nature of those particular funds. Because some of these funds are on a reimbursement basis, we don't have the cash up front. If we're still waiting for reimbursement, we end with a negative cash balance. So what we have to do in the meanwhile is temporarily loan those funds some money to zero out their cash, and then the next fiscal year, which is this fiscal year, we'll reverse that, what we call due to, due from, and we'll give the general fund monies back, and then those particular funds will receive the reimbursement in the following year. But those particular transactions are $242,000. The next block is 209. I touched basis on that $45.37 reimbursement from the state, how it was lowered. Fund 221 is one of the funds that needed cash of $3,898.08. Fund 222 needed $7,373.01. Fund 231 is the largest one that needed $133,309.64. Fund 241 needed $91,345.97. Fund 303 needed $5,593.89. Fund 305, $917.71. And then the last item is Fund 490. That's, again, where we forgave the loan from the reappraisal fund to the general fund of $75,000. And these are all the adjustments that are needed for last fiscal year's budget.
Thank you, Melinda. Any questions? Stand for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Varela.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Padilla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 7, Resolution 2017-0727-F2 Fiscal Year 16-17 Fourth Quarter Report. Melinda?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, one of our requirements that we have with DFA is we have to report to them on a quarterly basis. And of those 4 quarterly reports, we have to provide you guys with a copy of the fourth quarter. So now that we close the year, reconciled cash, and just done everything to close out the year, this is a compilation of the year. So this first page here is a recap page. It shows you what our beginning cash balances were. It shows you what the revenues and expenditures were for each of those particular DFA fund categories and what the ending cash balances are. And then the following pages are similar to what the budget presentation looks like for DFA. The first page begins, which is your second page, is a general fund recap. And on this particular page, I'll just kind of walk you through some areas. If you look at the general fund budget towards the middle of the page, the budget was $6,388,594 of revenues, budgeted revenues. When we actually received the revenues, we received $6,303,458, so we're about $85,000 shy in revenues. One of the largest differences there has to do with a $50,000 revenue that we normally realize from our indigent fund that we decided not to do this year. We were just going to keep the money in the indigent fund. Otherwise, by law, or by state statute, we're allowed to keep a certain cost or percentage for administrative fees. But we decided rather than recognizing those administrative fees, we'll just keep the funds in the indigent fund. Then the next section on this page that says general fund on the top are the expenditures. You'll see that the budgeted expenditures were just shy, a little over $6 million. But when it came to spending the funds, we only spent $5.4 million. That means with all the general fund departments across the board, there was $606,000 in savings. Now those savings go into the general fund cash balance, and just so you'll know that that takes place. Then the next page, pages 3 through 7 are special revenue funds, and you'll see like the first one talks about corrections. This isn't our entire correction department. This is just a portion that's tied to correction fees. We have to account for those separately. Correction fees come from the administrative offices of the courts. We had budgeted $125,000, and we actually received $137,000. And then you just go on to all the other items such as solid waste, our property valuation, our EMS funds, farm and range, our county fire protection, law enforcement, our housing, our indigent fund, our county fire protection, DWI, clerk's recording, and then our detention center funds. All those funds are summarized on these pages. And then if you jump to page 8 also gives you some details of some special funds that we have. Some of them are El Valle funds, and it shows you what our budget was for the year and what actually took place. Information on our forest reserves, on our federal disaster funds, our OEM funds, our WIP funds, our veteran fund, and our education fund. And all of those will show you budgeted revenues and expenditures and again, what actually materialized at the end of the year. Then if you jump to page 11 summarizes our road fund, the operational portion of our road fund. In our road fund, we had budgeted to receive $577,000, but we ended up with $466,000. And I think during one of the budget processes that I told you guys about, we had received a lot lower than what we had anticipated receiving from the federal government for forest reserve accounts. We shared this information with our Public Works Department, so they were really able to curb costs, and were able to use some funds from the NMFA loan that they were going to use from this fund to pay for like maintenance work, and they were able to pay for it out of the NMFA fund in order to keep this fund solvent. The next page is page 12. This is a summary of our capital project funds. And I don't know, this capital project fund is a summary of a bunch of different funds that we have, but we roll it up into one fund when it comes to DFA reporting. So some of these funds consist of our 202 funds, where we receive monies from the legislature for roads or local government road project funds. This also consists of our NMFA loan that we just received, that $3.8 million, and the CDBG funds, and all those special kind of funds that are tied to capital projects. That's where all these get summarized. So you'll see that some of the revenue that came in is lower than what was projected, but that really doesn't negatively affect us. It just could be because some of these might be like on a drawdown purpose, like they're grants that we have to spend and maybe we just haven't spent them all during the year. Or maybe some of them are still outstanding as far as receivables go. But that's what this particular report shows. On the expenditure side, you'll see for the capital outlay, we budgeted to spend $6.5 million, but we only spent 1.7. And again, it's because we have a lot of carryovers to this next fiscal year of funds that we still have to spend. So that's what that summarizes. Then on page 13 are our debt service funds. We have about 4 different funds that make up our debt service accounts, and most of them are capital outlay and some of our general purpose gross receipt taxes, our equalization gross receipt taxes, and our infrastructure gross receipt taxes go into these debt service accounts. They're used to cover our debt that we have on a lot of loans because they were pledged for those particular purposes. The first thing that we have to budget out of here are our principal and interest payments, and then after those have been budgeted, we're able to transfer the rest to particular funds as long as they fit the category of what those gross receipt taxes were enacted for in the first place. So this actually gives you a summary of that as well. The revenues and expenditures here for this particular fiscal year appear a lot higher than they would regularly be. And again, it has to do with the fact that we refinanced a loan in December for $4.9 million. So that makes up a lot of that information. So these numbers that I'm presenting to you now, not only do I have to like reconcile and balance everything out, these numbers tie into the next resolution that I'm going to be giving you guys, which is our final budget. But this is our fourth quarter report for last fiscal year. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
You're
Clerk,
welcome.
any questions?
What's that VIA fund?
El Valle, well, and I'm not sure how long ago this started, but I guess there was a subdivision out in the valley area, and there's something with like a Flying Diamond scholarship, and there was some kind of stipulation when they started selling property over there that $5,000 for every piece of property that got sold would go into this scholarship fund. So in years past, the monies was a lot higher. It's been a long time since we've actually received any proceeds from this. So what happens is there's a committee that gets formed, and it's usually given, the students from that area are the ones that apply for it when they're going to college, and there's some criteria of them keeping a certain GPA, and then they get $400 a semester provided they are awarded once the scholarship and they maintain their GPA. So hopefully this next fiscal year, we'll go ahead and start spending some of the funds that we have available. We have a little bit over $5,000. And hopefully if there's any future sales with this, it'll continue the fund growing. But that's what that is.
Decision on who gets the awards for the scholarship?
There's a committee that's formed. Mhm. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We stand for a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Padilla,
Second?
seconded by Commissioner Varela. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 8, Resolution 2017-07-27-F3, fiscal year 17-18, final budget proposal. Ms. Gonzalez.
All right. This is the item that has the blue cover page on it, and there's 3 documents that are attached to it. And the first document that's attached is our fiscal year 17-18 final budget. And this is in the same format as our quarterly report was in. So it's really easy to look at later on if you want to compare the two of them to see how they're formatted. Anytime that you want to see a quarterly report too for the first, second, or third quarter, please let me know and I'll provide you guys with that information. The first page on this budget looks at the property taxes. So it looks at the 2016 tax year final valuations for both residential and non-residential, and you'll see that the valuations for the two are over $500 million. There's the operating tax rate and our total production that we could collect if 100% of our property taxes were collected. So based on the 2016 tax year and based on the current operating rates, we have the potential of collecting $4.2 million in property taxes. The collection rate for the first year is 91%, so that $3,895,044 is what we budgeted for this fiscal year for current property taxes. So this is a form that's required by DFA. The next page is a recap page, and this is our beginning cash balances. This looks a lot like the quarterly report that I just provided to you a while ago. It has beginning cash balances and investments. It has what we're budgeting for this fiscal year. So we're budgeting in revenues $16,486,102. Our budgeted expenditures are $23,329,080. And then it gives you our estimated ending cash balances for all those particular funds. There's two different funds that you'll notice that have reserve requirements. One of them is the general fund. We have a 3/12 reserve requirement on expenditures. So we're more than able to cover that 3/12 reserve requirement. But in addition to that, I always recommend that we also have a 3/12 reserve requirement on our transfers out, because we're constantly transferring out to other funds. And in order to make sure that we have the funds to do that, we have what I would like to consider a self-imposed 3/12 reserve requirement on our transfers out. So any extra cash balances that we have, we intend to use for future matches for funds. Like now we're going to have that El Camino bike trail, and we got funded some funds. In this particular year, 17-18, we had a match of about $11,000. And then the next phase, which will probably take place in 18-19, there's about $112,000 or $122,000 match. And this is where those matches would come from for our local government road funds, for our CDBG projects. That's where this cash would primarily be used for. And then our other fund that has a 3/12 reserve requirement is our road fund, and that has a 1/12 reserve requirement, and we're able to set it up so we meet that particular requirement as well. Then the next page, again, this is very similar to the quarterly report. It gives you a general fund, is a general fund operating budget. It gives you history, and all the other reports are going to give, the pages subsequent to this are going to give you the same type of information. It's going to give you actual numbers for fiscal year ending 2015, 2016, what the 6/30/17 budget was, and then what this request is. So you could kind of see the patterns and if we're being consistent or what. So that's where that summary page is. And then, again, the pages following are in the same format as a quarterly report. Now, the changes that took place now with this final budget primarily had to do with grant funds, fire funds, anything that had different cash balances that we expected. So like with our fire funds as an example, we're sitting down trying to guess what the ending cash balance is. And we're kind of close in guessing, but now that we've reconciled and everything, we're actually using the reconciled cash balances as our beginning cash balances. So in some cases, we're increasing budgets for like the fire departments, and then in other cases, we're decreasing them. But in addition to like that, when we received the fire notices from the State Fire Marshal's office as far as what they thought we were going to receive for the state fire allotment, they were a lot lower than what we're actually going to receive. The state's going to do it a little bit different this year. I know there was a lot of talk about the state pulling back money, but we're actually going to be receiving more monies when it comes to the state fire allotments. But what they're going to do differently this fiscal year is rather than giving us some money all up front like they usually do in July, they're going to give it to us in quarterly installments. So this first quarter, we're going to receive early August or sometime in September, I think is what they told us. And all of our fire districts are going to receive something this quarter except for Sapillo and Conchas. And the reason that they're not going to is because they have such a large cash balance to work off of in the first place. And then during the second, third, and fourth quarters, everybody's going to be getting the proportionate share. So by the end of the year, they'll receive the full lump sum. So overall, the State Fire Marshal funds have increased. Then we also had some other changes in the budget, and I'll just kind of go over some of them with you. And these are some changes that weren't in the interim budget. But now that we closed the year and we reconciled everything, if you remember last year, we transferred $121,000 to the DWI program. Well, they had two vacancies during the year. They had their administrative position that was vacant for a long time, and then towards the end, they had another vacancy. And From those vacancies, they ended up saving $36,504. So now this fiscal year, I'm going to be transferring that money out from the DWI fund, if so approved, and putting it back into the general fund. That's one of the changes. Then we also had two other transfers out from the general fund that weren't budgeted during the interim. One was $30,000 that was going to be transferred to Fund 222, and that's for the law enforcement fund, for the building fund, in order to meet that budget for that project. And then another $25,000 was going to be transferred to our CDBG application for the I can't remember what the project is. San Isidro? No, San Agustin. The San Agustin project. So that was another change. And then because we ended the fiscal year, our Public Works Department ended up with more cash than we had estimated, so we were able to decrease that transfer by $72,000. Our detention center ended up with more cash than anticipated, so we're able to lower that transfer by $95,000. Solid waste, we're able to lower that by $70,000. And then another transfer or difference that we did is this fiscal year, or now during the final budget, is since we had those savings, is we're transferring $15,000 from the general fund to Fund 220, which is a vehicle capital outlay fund. And that's in the event in the future that we have needs to replace some of our units. And it's just maybe every year we could slowly transfer money from the general fund in order to build up some funds to replace vehicles as needed. There was a small change in the transfer that's needed for the Office of Emergency Management. We received our workers' comp premiums, and they came out to be $15,572 more than we had anticipated. We'll be paying those soon, so that's another adjustment. We budgeted $10,000 in here for the San Miguel County Health Council. We increased our insurance claims deductibles just based on some insurance claims that we're working with right now, and those claims were increased by $75,000. In the general fund, last fiscal year, we had some monies earmarked for the gazebo that's being built outside, and we thought that that was going to be finished last fiscal year, but since it wasn't, we still had some monies encumbered, so we increased the general services by $18,000 in order to cover that. And then we had an overtime change in the sheriff's office of just $2,000, but that's a change that we made. And then in the attorneys, we also increased that because we just needed to budget based on the responses that we got back from the people who responded to the RFP, and then to cover our June billings. And then again, most of the other changes are tied to capital outlay, or like those rollover funds that I was telling you about, that changed just because they ended up with more cash. But one of the other items I should just bring to your attention is solid waste. When I was putting together some forms now for the budget process, it looked like I budgeted $8,123 too little for group insurance, so I had to increase that particular budget. So just to let you know those particular changes. Then the next document I want to show you is this document, and this is supporting document schedules that go along with the FA, so I'll just kind of go over these with you now. The first one is just additional information. It tells you how many full-time employees that we have. The county has 133 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. It gives information on the budgeted salary increases, which there weren't, so it's 0. It asks for particular information such as the manager's salary, the attorney's salary, the audit cost, the safety net care pool monies, and the Medicaid portion. The next page is similar to what we discussed a while ago with the property tax valuations. Then the third page is our debt service page. In this particular page, there's a lot of detail in here. If you look at column D lets you know of all the loans that we've had, all the original issues were about $17 million. And what's still outstanding right now is in column E, so there's $14.5 million still outstanding in principal. Column F will let you know what principal payments are budgeted in our 17-18 budget. Column H is the interest that's budgeted, and column J is going to be what the outstanding debt is going to be at the end of fiscal year 17-18. The next schedule, or the next page, is Form S5, and this really talks about like what are we planning, or what are our intentions with our excess cash. So we have to just let DFA know what the thoughts are. So as I mentioned, there's a self-imposed 3/12 reserve requirement on transfers out of the general fund. There's matching requirements for TAP funding, and then other capital outlay road project monies that are needed. So that's what that page demonstrates. Then the next page is a breakdown of our gross receipt taxes. It shows you the different local options that we have, the enactment rates, shows you information. Column E shows you prior year actuals. F shows you the current year, being 16-17 though, budgeted numbers, and column G gives you the 17-18 budgeted numbers. So you could see if there's any changes in those particular funds. The next page over is Form S2. It's a schedule of insurance, and this is just to let them know what insurances we have within our budgets. So we have our healthcare insurances. Those are the portions of the employees' insurances that the county picks up. So the county's match for those, or the county's portion for that, is a little bit under $800,000 a year. Our general liability is $245,000. Our workers' comp is $248,000. Our law enforcement insurance is $255,000, and our emergency medical, which is tied to our volunteer firefighters, is about $48,000. Now the next 3 pages, the long pages, legal pages, are all of our employees in the county. They're listed by name, by title, and the salaries listed, their contributions, or the county's contributions into para, retiree health care, FICA, FICA Medicare, and group health insurances are listed here, along with the workers' comp numbers, and it gives you the totals. If you go to the end of page 3 of 3, you'll notice that the total cost for all the employees, excluding the elected officials, is $5.8 million. So that's what our salaries and fringe benefits are for our non-elected individuals. Then the next page is our elected individuals. So it gives you the same type of information, and the total cost for our elected officials, including benefits, is $439,163,000. And then the final page of this supporting document is our investments. We have 4 different certificates of deposits totaling $1.1 million that are held at local banks. And that's what that particular page is. And then the final document here is something that should look pretty familiar. This is our internal document, and this lists our internal funds, fund by fund by fund. It shows you what our beginning cash is. It shows you what our budgeted revenues and expenditures are. And then on the right left-hand column is a crosswalk to the DFA report. Again, DFA has this reporting in very summarized funds, and this to the left again will show you where you can find it on the DFA report. So all those highlighted columns are the changes that are being made now during this final budget. And I'll just give you an example, and then you let me know if you want me to give you more information. But the general fund, we had estimated that we'd end with $2.4 million, but our actual cash was $66,000 above that. And then in the next column, you're going to see where it says other assets and liabilities. We have $384,896 also available to us, and a lot of this, part of this 384 consists of that $240,000 that was transferred at the end of 16-17 to cover the negative cash balances. So right now it's just sitting on our books as an asset. It's called like a due from other funds, and then we have some prepaid assets in here too. But everything that you see highlighted are changes that were made for the year. And that's all I have to present, but if you have any questions, please let me know.
I guess the only question that I have, Melinda, is how did we figure out were we right on that 5% cut that we made, or did we over budget or under budget on that, or did it come out just the way we figured it was going to come out with the 5%?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I think we're still good with the 5% cuts that we did, because even though there's some numbers that changed, increases and decreases, they're primarily tied to balances that were left in cash. None of our recurring revenues increased. So because our recurring revenues, what we budgeted for them, didn't increase, we weren't able to change anything really expenditure-wise. A lot of the changes that did happen expenditure-wise are going to deplete our excess cash. So like some of those insurance claim deductibles that I'm telling you about that we have some outstanding items, they're going to be coming from our excess cash. The $18,000 for the work being done outside, again, is going to be coming from our cash. But none of the expenditures, other than the $2,000 of overtime for our sheriff, and then maybe some of monies for our legal services, those will be coming out of those are recurring expenditures. But we have the capacity to cover those, but nothing else. So those 5% cuts were still needed because nothing changed as far as recurring revenues go.
How much do we have to do more work out there?
I'm not sure where they are with that. I don't know if anybody can answer where they are with that project, but all those funds have been encumbered.
You're talking about the landscape?
The landscape. So there's 3 funding sources for this last round. There was a P&M grant that we're using. There were some funds that we had set aside in Fund 210, which came from transfers probably a couple years back from either the general fund or some of those debt service funds that were used for that. And then we had about $18,000 from the general fund to cover those costs. So it should be done soon, it seems like.
To just put the lock on.
I don't know if anybody
They're
knows.
putting the lock on today.
Okay, so.
They look like they're almost
So
letting it out.
it's already contracted out?
It's already been
It's
contracted out. We've
You
already,
can look out the window, look at some pisto.
Okay, no, I was just wondering.
I
Okay.
just wanted to let you know, under the county elected schedule, I'm not on there, so.
oh, I wonder if I have you in the,
I mean, not that, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, but you need to account for that money too, so.
well, I could assure you, you are budgeted for.
Okay, that's, I just wanted
So,
to make sure, so.
yeah,
I just
you
I
are-
better make sure.
You are budgeted, but you're correct, you are off the listing. So when I was separating the two, I just must have excluded you, so I apologize for that.
Not that, no, it doesn't offend me in one bit.
Okay.
I just want to make sure the money's accounted.
Yes, yes, I assure you.
So I'm getting paid, so it doesn't matter.
There's no more discussion. Let's stand for the motion. Motion to approve by Commissioner Lahat, seconded by Commissioner Padilla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I was going to thank Public Works for all the work they did on Saturday, and Chief Montano for all the work they did in that canyon cleanup. I appreciate all the volunteers and all the work you guys did. We filled up a 30-yarder full of trash in one day. It was an amazing feat. So thank you all. Mr. Manager, item number 9, is there a reason to go into executive session?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at this time I'm requesting that the county commission go into closed executive session
So which one has to
to
sign?
discuss limited personnel matters as permitted by New Mexico SA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H2 as amended of the Open Meetings Act, more specifically personnel matters regarding contract with jail administrator and discussion and contents of competitive sealed proposal for legal services pursuant to NM SA 1978, Section 10-15-1H6.
It's time for a motion.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Padilla.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lahat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And if all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll be back after executive session to continue on with the rest of the items. I guess everybody has to go to the bathroom or anything. That'll be good. I'd like a motion to go back into regular session.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Padilla,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Nakar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Now we're on action item 10. Oh, we took no action in executive session. Item number 10, action on the jail administrative contract. Martinez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at this time, I'm requesting approval to terminate the contract of employment between the jail administrator warden Patrick W. Snideker and San Miguel County.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Olivares, seconded by Commissioner Nakar. All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Chairman Rock Ulavidi,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Arthur Padilla,
Yes.
Commissioner Janice Varela,
Yes?
Commissioner Maria Martinez,
No.
Commissioner Chris Nahat,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 11, action on competitive sealed proposals for legal services. Action requested of the commission. Award. Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at this time, I am requesting approval to negotiate a contract with Mr. David Romero for legal services for San Miguel County.
I'll stand for a motion.
I move.
Motion made by Commissioner Nahat,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Padilla. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. I'll stand for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Padilla, seconded by Commissioner Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.